Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. Alhamdulillah, I'm your host for today, Abdullah Patel. And with me today, we have three guests, a full panel today. We're just going to go over the week 12 scores. We had a really, really exciting end of the season. And then we're going to have a little playoff preview looking at the two series that go down tomorrow. So, with me today, our first guest. He's no stranger to the podcast, no stranger to the league. It's our very own commissioner, Habibi. Assalamu alaikum, Habibi. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam, guys. How are you? Alhamdulillah, Abdullah. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. So, yeah, Habibi is our first guest. Our second guest, another non-stranger to the podcast, Mr. Abdulaziz Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam everyone, how are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. And our final guest, our guest of the evening, he's had a pretty good season behind the nets for Rida. It is Yusuf Kapoor. Welcome, Yusuf. How are you
Salam
doing?
alaikum. Alhamdulillah, how are you?
I'm
Good
good.
to
I'm
be
good.
on. Alhamdulillah.
So, Jazakallah, all of you guys for joining. We had a really, really exciting week 12 of the final season, a final game of the regular season. Four really exciting matches. Some of them absolute blowouts. Some of them a lot closer and tighter. That we'll get into. So without further ado, we'll Madni's here, just saying salam. Welcome, salam, Madni. We'll get into the podcast. So to start off, the very first game of the evening was Yaqeen versus Iman. This ended in a 6-2 win for Yaqeen. Naeem Shah with 6 points, 2 goals, and 4 assists. RC with a goal and 3 assists. And in the third star place, we have Adnan Gangat with the 2 goals for Iman. So, did any of you guys catch this game?
Yeah, I think I caught it, majority of it actually. So for this game, I think it was actually a pretty, Iman came out with a really good showing. They got like a goal in the first period from I think Adnan Ganga just clapped it, and he got a really nice goal. And then likewise, I think Yakin just, mounted the pressure and took advantage of the goalie that Iman had, and they potted a few past him. So it was a really, one-sided affair, but there was flashes of brilliance from Purple.
Yeah, and I think for
Yeah, I agree.
for a man with with a team that's kind of like fighting, just to kind of it was more of a prideful game for them, just to kind of end off the season in a good way. Iman actually was a good constructed team. I don't know why they didn't really find a rhythm throughout the whole season, but I saw glimpses of it on during that game. But yeah, when you got a team that's kind of like with their their backs faced beyond the wall, they showed a little bit of what they could have done, but at the end, Yakin was just too powerful for sure.
For sure. Naeem Shah, a great game, 6 points. He actually finishes the season in tied for second place on points at 19 points on the season. So a great season for him. Definitely a good pickup in one of the mid rounds of the draft for Yakin. And with this win, actually, they officially clinch the very first seed. They were winless in their last two coming into this after a tie with Rida and a loss to Haya. And so, with this, they officially clinch the very first place spot and they clinch that advantage going into the semifinals along with the bye. Yusuf, did you have anything to say about this game?
No, I didn't get to watch it. I mean, no, I came a little bit later, but I'm not surprised to see Naeem Shah. He's been on the first star or the 3 stars for quite a few weeks, I would say, during the season. I remember him being on here, so he's consistently showing off for his team, and I think this is no real surprise here. So
For sure. Yeah, and with that, they honestly, Arsenal Butty gets his first win as goalie of Yakin. So that definitely will give him a lot more confidence going into the playoffs. And I think Yakin looked very comfortable. The last two games they kind of looked a bit shaky at the back, but this game they looked very very comfortable. Whether that was because Iman was a little bit short benched or not, they do look good going into the playoffs. Moving into the second game, we
There's one
have
game
Haya versus Sabr.
don't want to talk.
Habibi, you played in this game. Abdulaziz, you also played in this game. So, Habibi, why don't you just give us a rundown
Well,
of
let's
what
just say
happened?
this was one of those games where no one was complaining about playing time. I mean, Sutter had literally, and the funny thing is about this game is that all our guys on the group chat was like, "Yeah, I'm showing up, I'm showing up, I'm showing up," and then at the very end, it's one of those things where is everybody? But yeah, I mean, there was no complaining on playing time on this game. I think when you got a team that, it was a kind of not a meaningful game for Sutter, but being a guy at my age playing the entire game with only one sub, because I think one of our subs kind of showed up like later into the first half. But it was high out all the way, to be honest with you. I mean, they were just firing it at all angles. It's a good thing that Haya did that, because obviously when you're bound to the playoffs, you really don't want to establish that kind of bad habits and stuff like that. So for them it was kind of like let's just not create any bad habits right now. Let's just play as a team and just kind of do what we need to do so we can learn from this game and just carry on. But kudos to Haya. They didn't let down, and why would they? I mean, they're a playoff bound team, and playing a team like Suburb in terms of like having literally no one on the bench. It was kind of one of those games where they did what they need to do, which was just kind of like establish good habits and go from there. But absolutely right, Hamza. It was a great season on behalf of Suburb. All the guys there, the camaraderie, the brotherhood that we had in the bench, the brotherhood that we had actually in the change room and all that stuff. It was great to be with the guys every single night for Suburb, but it was just for this specific game, Haya was just all over us.
For sure, Abdulaziz, what are your thoughts on your team going into the playoffs on a high? Beating league leaders Yakin 4-1, and then beating bottom Suburb 6-1. You guys have 10 goals in your last two games going into the playoffs. How's the kind of the team morale and how's the team feeling?
I think the team morale is still, we're taking that underdog mentality. We're not thinking that we're up there, and although that we've taken down the teams at the top, I think our mentality is still that we don't want to let the noise get to us. We just want to play the underdog story, and we know we have the potential to obviously win, but we're just going to take it one game at a time, I think, inshallah. And come tomorrow, that's the game plan for us. Just take it one game at a time, and as we proceed through playoffs, inshallah, that's also the game plan. But overall, this game was more of like a warm-up game for us. Once we obviously got a few goals, our mentality was just keep the ball, keep moving, get the legs going, and then just tighten up the things that we have weaknesses, and just prep for playoffs. That's what we're looking forward to. But although that we've been successful for the past few weeks, it's still just take it one game at a time and focus on playoffs, inshallah.
It was a
sure.
warm-up game. Warm-up game.
Warm up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Yusuf,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on Hamza Butt performance and the
Yeah,
overall?
I was just about to say actually, because I'm surprised that with just like I don't know how many guys you said that you have, just one line, still managed to get 28 shots on him. That's pretty impressive. I didn't get to see the game. I didn't see what kind of shots or how that pretty much went, but just by the stats alone, it's pretty surprising. I don't know how many shots. Do you guys know how many shots you end up getting on, or sorry, Haya got on Suburb?
I can pull it up here.
Yeah, I didn't get to see
It
the
seemed like
stats,
a
but
lot.
yeah,
I think
but
it was around 25, 30, if I'm not mistaken.
okay, well.
Somewhere in
So
that.
yeah, I know, but the fact that Hamza still saw 28 shots, I mean, from one line, when that's pretty impressive, and you guys kept them warm for us for tomorrow. So let's see.
Thank you so much,
For
Gabor. We
sure.
appreciate that.
Yeah, honestly, this game, I think Haya does look really, really good. Going into the playoffs against him, I'm definitely not going to be, too thrilled to be going up against such a powerhouse. But honestly, we were saying before this season, and this playoffs, it's really it's anyone's game at this point. It's really, really too close to call. Anyone from Yaqeen to Ikhlas has a chance at lifting the Islam championship. And yeah, moving into
Actually,
the third game.
before I want to get into that, I just want to shout out Hamza.
Yeah.
Because Hamza actually is absolutely right. I think Sabr was actually a really good team on paper, and it's just one of those things where it just didn't gel where it did. And yes, Hamza, shout out to you. And actually, kudos out to you in terms of like, yeah, we did play well, even though we only had one guy on the bench.
For sure, Hamza guy is saying that maybe they went easy. Maybe they went easy.
Yeah, it
on
didn't
you
look
guys.
like it. I think there was no mercy on them for sure. They were firing at all cylinders for sure at that game.
For sure, they look good, and a lot of the guys on the bench or in the stands were cheering on Hamza every time he got the ball. So
Yeah, he's got a
he's
got a fan base for sure.
He's got a fan club, yeah. So moving into the third game of the night, this game had some implications on the playoff structure. Basically, the winner of this game would move into fifth, and the loser would move into sixth. And so there was chatter all night of, would it be more advantageous to lose the game, finish sixth, and get an easier opponent? That's obviously up to everyone else's judgment, but I think there's definitely no easy opponents in this playoffs. And yeah, Rida ended up taking the win against Ikhlas. One thing to note about this Rida team, and we'll talk about it. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the show when we talk about the playoffs. We started with one guy on the bench for the first 4 minutes of the game. Ikhlas scored. We had no one on the bench, and Ikhlas scored with the first 10 seconds of the game. Mikhail Zaidi, great goal. He stole the ball from one of our defenders, and he just ripped it glove side on Yusuf Kapoor. And so, this was a really slow start for us. And the thing, that's been the talk of Rida this whole season has been showing up and having people being consistent. By the time the whole team came, it was already maybe 5 minutes left in the first half. And then it took us, the whole rest of the first half to regroup. All three of our goals were scored in the second half, but, it was a very, very slow start from us, and something that definitely we can't do against a speedy, fast team like Haya. And, Kapoor, what are your thoughts, and what did you kind of feel during this game? As there were a couple of shots that, it looked like they kind of caught you by surprise. You got saved by the crossbar and post a couple of times.
Yeah, it was a weird game. I don't know. I guess it was a little bit of that, slow start. Normally you get shot, you get scored on in the first 10 seconds. You kind of like stunned a little bit, and you kind of have to regroup. So I think that it was a bad start for us, but eventually we kind of got our footing and stuff in the game. But yeah, there were a few posts. I remember I made one pad save from a deep shot, and I thought it hit my pad. I thought it went to the side or something, but then it apparently went over me and it hit the crossbar or something. And then there was a couple other crossbar shots. Faisal Mahbub in the second period hit a crossbar too. So there's a lot of weird ones. I definitely need to step on my game on my end, but I think we need to starting early is going to make a huge difference in the presence that we can bring early on in the game. So yeah,
for sure. Did you guys, Habibi, Abdulaziz, did you guys catch this game at all?
Actually, my game was the one before that one. So I actually caught a little bit of it, but I did catch the mid goal. Within because I opened up the game, watched a little bit of the game, then went back to the locker room to exchange stuff like that. But I caught when it was 1-0. Didn't really catch much of it from the rest of it. But given what you're telling me in terms of the slow start in the beginning, then once you had the guys, you kind of formulated that momentum going forward. And to be honest with you, it was a game that had implication. So obviously, you hear guys chatter about, lose this game, do that, do this, do that. Obviously, no team wants to go into a playoff with bad habits. So I don't think any team really wants to, tank a game for any reason. I don't see any logistical reason to do that. But I mean, the score kind of showed in the end where, once you guys kind of gain that momentum, because then 1-0, once you guys kind of, then you guys kind of out over them. But you guys, Riddler's a great team. It has youth. It has obviously Kapoor and net. So obviously, when you have Kapoor and net, you kind of have that strong base mentality in terms of your backup being solidified. But when you're playing a team like Ikhlas and you're able to shut them down, I think
Yeah, I agree. Abdulaziz, kind of going into the playoffs, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but you guys are going to be coming up against this Reda team. What are you guys kind of looking for? What are some things that you kind of noticed in their game that you think, Haya can take advantage of?
One of the biggest pluses that I've noticed of Rida, and I think we'll be like keeping an eye on, is the ball movement and the breakout of Rida. You guys do it very well that I've seen, especially with Muhammad Bobo. Yeah, like breaking out and the dangles that he has. So that's one thing that I think we'll keep an eye on. But other than that, you guys do have the offensive talent to score, as seen in this, in this game, and then you also have the defensive capabilities to shut down. And then obviously you have Kapoor in net, which is, in and itself a big advantage. But I think, inshallah, it should be a tight game overall. And I'm looking forward to it. But there's like a few things that you guys definitely have there that we'll need to keep a, good eye on.
For sure. And inshallah, it will be a fun series tomorrow. But we'll get into the last game of the night. This game was arguably the most entertaining game. It was back and forth, some controversy. I know from Ihsan, I know Dawood and Ali Wadi will be kind of still complaining about the goal. I think it was the Casantini goal where they said that it was kicked in. But the referees do make the calls at the end of the day. And the score ended 2-2. This game also had really huge implications where the winner of this game would get the bye to the semifinals, and they wouldn't have to play tomorrow. And with the tie, Taqwa had 1 point lead and was able to keep their bye. Had Taqwa won, Ihsan actually would have moved down to 4th place, and then they would have had to play Rida. And Haya would have moved up because Haya would have had the head-to-head, or the Haya would have had the same points head-to-head. So it was a very back and forth game. Osman with 2 goals, Ali Wadi with 2 assists. These 2 assists actually are what ended up winning Ali Wadi the top playmaker award with the most assists in the league. And so a definitely tight race there stats wise. And Rayan Khwaja, a goal and an assist. We have a comment here about his smile. His smile is great, and so is his play recently. So he definitely is helping his team as the first round pick. So what did you guys really see in this kind of game between the some of the best teams in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a really entertaining game to watch. It was kept back and forth, a lot of controversy, a lot of penalties that maybe should have been called but weren't, and so it was entertaining all the way through. But I did see, I don't remember all the goals, but I did see Osman's. I think that was the first goal that Ihsan got to tie it, I believe, and he clapped it from half, and he and basically just went top shelf on Mufti, and that was a surprise. But it was like that was really pretty. But yeah, they it was a fun game to watch for sure. So.
For sure. Habibi, we have a question from Dawood here. He's asking if Ihsan has locked for 8 secured for the playoffs now.
Well, the ironic part is that he was supposed to be on the podcast. I'm surprised that he's still awake watching us, but
I agree.
But we'll see what happens tomorrow. What locker room he gets, if he can slip me a couple of. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
For sure. I think this game definitely kind of really set the tone for the end of the season and going into the playoffs. This was basically a playoff game because of kind of the bye at stake, and it was very competitive and something very exciting to see going into tomorrow. And so with that, the player of the week for this week was Osman Badr from Ihsan with his 2 goals. And we'll just play his video before we go into anything else.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Usman here from Team Ihsan. I just wanted to thank the league and the referees for picking me as a player of the week. Also wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, Hupo. Love the amazing work that you guys are doing, and keep it up. As far as the game, we didn't get the result we wanted. We needed the win to get the bye. ended up in a 2-2 tie. Still feel like we played one of the better teams in a playoff type game going into the playoffs. So inshallah, that helps us with our playoff run. Good luck to all the teams participating in the playoffs next week. And inshallah, see you guys all on Friday. Assalamu alaikum.
So yeah, Usman with the player of the week. It was his. He actually was supposed to win player of the week another one of the weeks, but he wasn't able to commit. So it's good to see him still performing and getting the recognition that he deserves. So yeah, we'll move into now the playoff preview. And first we'll talk about the bracket and what this really implicates. So tomorrow, Ihsan and Ikhlas, being the third and the sixth teams, will go up against each other, and Haya and Rida will go up against each other as team 4 and 5. Kind of just a little explanation. It's going to be a best of 2 series following OBHA rules, meaning game 1 will be played. If it ends in a tie, there's no overtime, no shootout after game 1. That would just mean whoever wins game 2 would go on. If it still remains a tie, or if the series is split, one team wins game 1, the other team wins game 2, then it's followed by a 5-minute sudden death overtime. First goal wins. And if it's still tied, then it's going to go into a 3-round shootout where teams can only send one shooter out, and then they can only repeat as after all players on the roster have taken a shot. So we have had a lot of overtime heroics in the past and shootout in the past. So, it will be very exciting to see. The schedule is 8 o'clock will be Haya versus Rida. 9 o'clock, Ihsan versus Ikhlas. That will be game 1. And then Haya versus Rida at 10 o'clock for game 2 and possibly overtime and shootout. And then at 11 o'clock, Ihsan versus Ikhlas to finish off the quarterfinals. We have Yaqeen here in the semifinal position. The reason that we don't have Taqwa is although they are in the semifinal position, we don't know who they're going to face. One of the things that we've been mentioning this season that we've kind of changed and brought into the league is, first place gets to choose who they play in the semifinals. And that's why it was so important to get that first spot for Yaqeen. So, Yaqeen can choose any one of the teams that make it. Yaqeen can even choose Taqwa if they would like to. Obviously, logistically, tactically speaking, you probably wouldn't want to pick, a powerhouse like Taqwa, but, Yaqeen does have the right to at the end of the day. And that's kind of why that first spot is so coveted. And so, for example, if Ikhlas and if Haya win, then Yaqeen can choose to play Haya, Ikhlas, or Taqwa. And, same thing as if Ihsan or Rida win, they will also be there. So, really, really exciting things to come. And kind of, Yusuf Kapoor, you have a really tough series tomorrow. What kind of are you looking forward to going into this, series with Haya?
I mean, Haya is obviously a team you can't undermine. They are stacked from top to bottom. I think a lot of people have recognized that, especially, since the trade and all that, and when Maz entered as well. So I was actually looking at the stats recently, and it looks like everyone except like 3 players has a goal on the team, at least one goal. And that's excluding like the goalie as being one of those players. So, so it's definitely, we've got to work cut out for us, and I don't think we can take any of these guys lightly. So, I think the key for us is to start early, have a full bench, start early, and I think just be ready for anything and everything. Obviously, try to shut down their top guys, Maz, Imad Khawaja. I don't know if I'm missing. Yeah, there's a few other guys, but
Arsenal, Lukman,
yeah, those guys as well.
The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's like who do you not
Yeah.
worry about, right? So that's definitely a team that we can't overlook, and we're going to play our hardest, and inshallah, we'll just give it our best.
Abdulaziz, I don't think you noticed, but he didn't mention your name as a threat to look out for. So, what are your thoughts on that heading into this game? You're going to have 2 chances, 2 games against Yusuf tomorrow to score. So,
Yeah, don't score on me.
Honestly,
Don't score on me, please.
that's fine. No, honestly, I think our team is looking forward to it. I think, yeah, like it's the same goes for us. We're looking forward to having a full bench, and just making sure because 8 o'clock games are obviously
The
uh,
best.
sure, let's put it that way, the best. So just getting there on time, getting a good warm up in is going to be key for us. I mean, I think we have the depth, so any one of our lines can score, considering how much depth we have, and we've seen everybody in our team score, like Yusuf said, except for a few guys. So inshallah, it should be fun. But I think we're looking forward to come and just bring a good game and win both, inshallah.
Yeah, but you can't count out Rida too. I mean, it's not. I mean, you guys have your players, but you can't count what Rida has too. I mean, obviously, when you have Kapoor and net, I'll say this and I'll say this again. Like it solidifies the back end. But if you look down the roster, you got Altaf, you got Zahir, you got Mohamed Patel, you got Bully, you got a whole bunch of guys. And Sif, I don't know if he's healed or in terms of his ankle, but you got him and D as well. So I mean, yeah, you guys have a well-constructed team. Lukman always drafts well. He's always got the quote-unquote high hustle in terms of like bringing that, that knit grit and kind of like, grind it down and just playing what they need to do. But I'm looking at Rida right now. I'm thinking, it's not like it's going to be an easy ride because, obviously with Abdullah there, Bully, Altaf, Zahir, the list goes on in terms of what they got as well. And they also got guys that can score on their second and third line as well. So, it is going to be a tough battle between the two teams, but it's playoff hockey. Anything can happen, and I'm looking at one of the comments too. Like it really shows up. It really boils down to like what team shows up and what team wants more. And obviously, with the luxury of having 2 games, that first game is really going to be coveted in terms of like getting that win, and kind of like for the second game, having that losing team actually have to win instead of tying. So. That first game is really going to be key, and I know that 8 o'clock start kind of is not good for many, but it really is important for that first game, and just to get that win out of the way, because with that win, it really puts you on top of the edge in terms of the second game.
For sure. Moving into the second game now of the evening, or the second series, Ihsan and Ikhlas, 3rd place versus 6th place. We asked the league what they thought kind of the winner, and the results, there was a clear winner for actually both of these polls. Most of the league thinks Haya is going to beat Rida, and most of the league thinks that Ihsan will beat Ikhlas. But one thing I will say is don't count out Ikhlas. These guys have surprised teams the whole season. When we released the GMs, there was a lot of chatter about having rookie GMs going up against GMs like Huzaifa Manjra that have been GMs and championship GMs multiple times. GMs like Ahmed Khalid, who has a couple of Iceland championships under his belt, and Hamoudi. So there was a lot of surprised when the GM reveal was made. But Yusuf and Hassan Mohammed have definitely shown that they have drafted a great team. And they've really doubted the haters wrong. By securing that playoff spot. We have a comment here saying that I look like I'm scared. I don't know what he's talking about, but well, let's just see tomorrow.
But
but
I agree with you. I agree with you, Abdullah, because you're absolutely right. Like Ikhlas, they knew exactly what they're doing. It might not have looked at it from the very beginning, like you said, Abdullah, in terms of like what we were looking at with getting those GMs on board, but Ikhlas really did turn a lot of eyes, especially in the beginning of the season. They were actually on a tear, but they knew exactly what they're doing. They drafted their guys. These are guys, obviously, not a secret. It's the kind of look that Dynamo contingent, and those guys have been playing with each other, obviously, for quite some time. So you're absolutely right. Although from the outside, it kind of looked like they didn't know, because obviously Iceland being new to them, but they knew exactly what they're doing, and it shows. I mean, they're obviously playoff bound, and again, they got a team that really has a bunch of young guys, but they also got that veteran leadership as well in terms of like Hassan Zaidi and what he brings in terms of like bringing that unit together and calming them down and kind of like, showing them where they need to go. And obviously you got, Foster on that team as well. So they got the veterans, but they also got the youth and the speed, and obviously with with their goalie as well, like Yusuf, he's really amazing. So they're a young team. I wouldn't count them out. And you're right, they could be a Cinderella team, but definitely would not keep my eyes shut on these guys for sure.
For sure. One thing we'll talk about now and just kind of moving into the playoffs is really just the strengths of each team, and kind of what will be the key to each team kind of going through and going far into this playoffs. So first of all, these photos, thanks to our photographer, we actually have a photographer, and we got a couple of good shots of some of you guys. So maybe your GMs will send them over to your team chats when they get sent over. But nonetheless, first and foremost, the first place team, they were first place, I believe, the entire season. From week 1 to week 12, I don't think another team even touched first place. So it was Yakin. They were absolutely dominant. The GM duo of RC and Yusuf Siddiqui. Yusuf being a first-year GM, second-year Islam player. There were talks and kind of how would it, really balance with the acquisition of both of his brothers in the second and the third round. But the Siddiqui brothers have absolutely terrorized the league. I think combined they have 35 points, which is absolutely insane because they've missed like 4 or 5 games each. So a very, very high productive family. I think they all come together, and I think in the car they make bets with each other who can get the most points, because there are some games where it's 6 points, 5 points, and 4 points for 3 brothers. Abdulaziz, what will be the key to keep Yakin on top in the playoffs, in the semifinals against whoever they decide to pick, and in the finals if they do win? Yeah.
I think Yakin's biggest X factor, and in my opinion, this is coming from like our game that we played against them, is their defense. I think their defense is a solid core. Don't get me wrong. They have probably 4 or 5 of the like really solid demons to, really carry that decor. But I think it will really come down to how well that decor can perform, because we all know that they have the offense, and their defense will be the one. Can they get Arsenal those shots that he can see and make those saves? At the same time, can they get the ball out? Because I remember from our games, there was a few chances that we created just from forechecking and pressuring their D where they coughed up the ball. So I think it will come down to the same, right? Can Yakin's defense come through in playoffs? And I think they can, no doubt. But at the end of the day, that'll be the X factor for them to make a deep run.
Actually, I agree with you. I think Abdulaziz, you actually kind of said it well. We keep focusing on their offensive powerless, and you're absolutely right. With the Siddiqui brothers and RC and all that stuff, like on that team, you can't discount their defense. And you got Misbah, you got Delauer, you got Bilal, you got those 3 guys in the back end. I mean, they're unstoppable. I mean, the couple of times that we played them, don't underestimate those guys. Delauer might be one of the older guys, but man, can he shut guys down, even the younger guys. Bilal, his son, obviously, with his size and his stature, you can't get around that guy. And obviously the under guy is Misbah. Misbah is one of those defensemen that he's really underrated, but you can't count that guy out as well. So we keep focusing on Yakin's forwards, but you're absolutely right in terms of like what they have on D. That's what really constitute like that whole team and what they have. So yeah, it's also their D that should also take the spotlight as well.
Yeah, Yusuf, I'm curious to know, just to hear what your thoughts are on this Yakin team. They've adjusted now. This is going to be their 4th game with their new goalie, and kind of what's that going to really mean for them?
Yeah, I think you guys pretty much nailed it with your analysis. But I think if they just continue going with the way that they're going, and now especially with Arsenal also gained that confidence with that last game, I think they're bound to make a deep run in the playoffs. So they're the team to beat, and I don't think anything's stopping them yet. So, but let's see, inshallah.
For sure, inshallah. So, in second place, Taqwa, a great season all around after losing, GM Umar Mahmoud. they didn't really throw in the towel at all. In fact, getting Muhib, I think, propelled them and gave them a lot of confidence, having, a proven, Islam winner, MVP winner, scoring champion in the past, and, this season as well. I really think this Taqwa team is one of the strongest forces along with Yakin. We beat them in week 3, I believe. Rida, we beat them. But that was before they got Muhib, and after they got Muhib, we played them, with a short bench with 2 guys on the bench, and obviously the outcome was not what we wanted. But that is a team that, from their scoring to their defense, they have a solid core, and they have a solid, solid top 4 D core. One of the comments here is, are they a one-line team? I definitely don't think they are. If you look at their scoring, they have very, very, deep scoring. And we have a comment here from Yusuf Zaidi saying that Taqwa will win for sure if the other team pulls the goalie for 10 minutes. I think he's referencing the Iman game. But nonetheless, they were a strong team before then, and they're a strong team now. And I think the one thing that will be key for them is the scoring from their leaders. Muhib, Asif, Kesentini, Rayan. All 4 of them, or at least 3 of them, need to be on par. Next week in the semifinals, if they want to continue to keep their run, because they have really held the team together. Muhib, every week he's coming in, he's encouraging his team. I think that will probably be the biggest thing that will make or break their team. It's going to be the productivity of their leaders. Habibi, what are your what do you think?
Well,
will
you're
be
absolutely.
key? What?
Well, I mean, the key is exactly what you just said. I mean, they're a well-rounded team. I mean, you got obviously with their GM contingent between Asif and Moeed, but you also got 2 ex-GMs with Rayon and Mohamed Kasentini on their line as well. And again, when you're talking about one line, you got Ray playing on the second line. So you got productivity from the first line and the second line, and of course with their defense, with Salman Bhatti and Amar Hanif in the back. You can't count those guys out too. I mean, they may be one of the veteran guys in terms of like size and veteran, but they're pretty big guys, and they're scoring. I don't think they'll have an issue with scoring. It has nothing to do with that Iman game, but again, we know Mohib could score. We know Asif Bika can score. We know Ray can score. We know Kesentini can score. Those guys are not shy on the score sheets. And of course, you can't count Khalil Mufti in that. Khalil Mufti has been a solid powerhouse. For those guys in the back. And so they got obviously that confidence with him in the back. They are a really well-constructed team. And I think, this is definitely one team that obviously a silent dark horse. They're obviously not on the, the spotlight of Yakin in terms of like what Yakin has been doing to the league in terms of like, crashing all the scoring titles. But I wouldn't count these guys out. These guys are a well-constructed team from the front, from the back. And obviously with Mufti and net, he's not disappointed at all. So again, with 2 ex-GMs, with Ray and Kasentini, and obviously the GMs doing what they need to do, I don't think that they will shy away from doing what they need to do.
For sure. Yusuf, what are your thoughts on how Taqwa has looked? And we faced them a couple weeks ago. What will be key for Taqwa going into this playoffs?
Taqwa is just, I mean, they're producing on all fronts, right? Like they have Muhib and Asif and all those guys in Rayan who doesn't stop running. And so I feel like if they're just doing what they're doing basically to.
And you can't forget Omar Mahmoud in the bench.
Yes, exactly. Right. Him too. And he's kind of their guiding light, right? So I mean, having his eyes on the field, on the ice, and seeing everything and making shots and calling shots and stuff. So it's a huge advantage for them. And yeah, I do want to shout out to Khalil Mufti. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he, he's a veteran goalie, and he's like the way that he's been playing. I mean, this season's been phenomenal. Like he's had the lowest goals against average, and I think he only gets better in playoffs. Right? People talk about how like he shines in the playoffs. He's already had such a phenomenal season, regular season, and so now it's just kind of like he's just going to go up a level with playoffs. But let's see. I think he really is solidifying their back end, and they just have to keep on producing at the front, and I think they'll be good. But
for sure, Abdulaziz, what will be key?
I think honestly for Takwa, the biggest advantage aside from their offense is their depth. They have quite a bit of depth, even if you look into their like third line, the wingers on the second line. If you take out Ray from the equation, they have a lot of depth on that offensive core, and they have depth in that decent defensive core as well, right in front of Mufti. So I think that will carry them a long way because they're a pretty well-rounded team, like you guys have said. So it'll be very interesting to see, how they perform in semis come semis.
For sure. And with that, we'll move into third place. We have Ihsan, who have had another really stellar season. Only recently did they fall in the standings. I believe they had that second place almost locked up midway through the season, but with the resurgence of Taqwa, were unbeaten in their last 7 games. That really came to take over Ihsan, and only in the last couple of weeks did they actually overtake Ihsan. With this core that this team has, Ali Wadi, Rizwan Khalil, Osman Badar, Dawood, they have a core veteran team. 3 of these guys have been playing together for at least 30 years. You know, what will I really think that this could be the year. Maybe it's because they stopped wearing green and they're wearing a different color thanks to Dawood. But I feel like this could be the year that they really make the Islam title theirs, and they have the team to do it. Even Huzaifa Mahida, I don't think he also is another goalie that doesn't get as much recognition. His goals against average is also tied with Mufti's. Just he did play 3 games less, but he has had a pretty good season. I do think this is another one of those teams. Ikhlas, I think, will have a hard time with the chemistry that this Ihsan core has. And I think they're going to need to really focus on their counterattack against the older Ihsan guys, and really use their legs to their advantage to really have a chance at beating these guys. Or what do you think do you think Ihsan has what it takes to go all the way?
Yeah, I definitely think that they're one of the top teams to beat. People joke about how like they only have that one line that they run, and those guys never get off and whatever. But I mean, just having that one line alone is just such a massive threat, right? They're the ones producing like probably 80% of their goals and stuff, and they just have that I guess chemistry and I guess veteran like leadership and stuff, and that they play so well with each other. It's like I think Yusuf Siddiqui said last week. It's just like you don't even have to think about where they're going to be because everyone knows where they're going where everyone's on the ice, and so when you're playing at that level and you gotta just be ready for shots coming from anywhere and everywhere. It kind of makes it hard for the goalie to and even the defense, right, to keep up. So I think they definitely are one of the teams to beat. They do have as well like guys like Omar Daya, right? Abdul Salih Patel, who's super fast, and he has that hustle like energy in him, and so a lot of these guys they go under overlooked, but they're a pretty well-rounded team. I would say, yeah.
I agree. Habibi, what do you think will be key for this team?
Well, I'm on team veterans here, so obviously, like being one of those guys that kind of, in that age group. But obviously, those guys have been playing for a lot, and you can't count on veteran leadership on that team. Like in terms of like that word chemistry, these guys have chemistry, and you cannot count these guys out. But again, we can't ignore the other guys that they got on their team too. Like in terms of like Taha is on that team, Zahid is on that team. And of course, Danish on that 8-year contract, he's no stranger to the Ihsan squad in terms of like what they can do. But again, like Dawood, like maybe I might give him locker number 8. Maybe he plays better, playing out of that locker room. But Dawood is, I know that he switched, back to playing on defense. And of course, Ali Wadi, you cannot forget about Ali Wadi, and of course the poster child there. Like Rizzy, like. Yeah, Riz, like in terms of like what they do, cannot count that veteran leadership out. These guys have what it takes to go all the way, and of course with Osman Batar being there, obviously with his world class, playing in terms of like where his leadership and his credibility comes. This team was built for a championship for sure, absolutely.
For sure, and they also had the they lost Wasim Voda halfway through the season and got Usman. So it's
Absolutely.
been a good adjustment. And so tied with them on points actually is Haya in fourth place. And one thing about them was they started the season, I believe, 0 wins,
Whoa. Yeah. There's
5 ties or 4 ties and a loss. Like these guys, every single game, no matter what, it just wasn't working for them. They weren't able to get that win until later on. I think towards the middle of the season. After they got that win, though, they went on a tear. Maz along with Luke, along with Arcel and Suf
So
off his
yeah,
trade
yeah.
from Suburb. He definitely I think thrived in that environment, and obviously something that's been familiar for him. But Haya looks very very good, and I feel like they're one of the more underrated teams. This whole season, I think on the podcast, it's been Yakin, Takwa, Ihsan. A few points Rida. I think we were in second place at one point in the season too. Um, you know, I don't think a lot of people have really given it Haya their flowers, and I think maybe they prefer being the underdog. I know with that high hustle, the opportunity to be on Luke's team in the winter. I think they definitely thrive on being the underdog, but definitely nothing to overlook. Abilities. What are you guys really? What do you think is going to be your strongest point moving into the playoffs?
Honestly, I think, like you said, it took us a while to get that first win, but when we did get that first win, I think at that point we realized where our chemistry was clicking, and we realized, the potentials of the lines that we were running, and we've kind of, used those lines consistently with a little bit tweaks because of attendance, but overall, those lines have worked, and we've really found the chemistry, and the leadership has come to really propel our team. Not to mention, like when we look at the stats, obviously Yakin, Ikhlas, Yakin, Taqwa, Ihsan players are dominating, but I think that still doesn't count us out because it just shows the depth that we have. So that's another big factor that we have going for us. And kudos to the guy in the picture. He's been lights out for us this season, Hamza. But regardless of the game, he's come in multiple games, just 1 or 2 goals, giving us the chance to always win. So I think having that, such a depth team and, having such a good goalie in the net has played a big factor for us to go on, like, the recent streak that we've been on.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I think this team from line 1 to line 3, we're looking at every single player on this team has at least 1 point, and almost every player has a goal. So I definitely think this is a well-rounded team, and especially for us, Yusuf and myself, we're gonna be playing against you guys tomorrow, and I really think that we're gonna need to usually when teams' first lines are out, it's send your best guys and only focus on line 1, and let everyone else deal with line 2 and 3. But I really think this is going to be one of those games where each line will need to be matched, and it will be a very close game. So yeah, moving into 5th place now. It's our team, mine and
I
Yusuf's
just
team.
want to
Right
make
up.
sure that we give a shout out to Hamza Guy on that team too. So
For sure. Honestly, Hamza got 3 goals, 3 assists. Great season, great second
Fan
year scoring
favorite.
from that, and potential GM in the future.
bum, bum, bum.
So yeah, we we talk a lot about the inconsistencies with Rida when it comes to their performances. Looking at their scores this season, they have 3-1 wins, 4-1 wins, 5-2 win, and then they have 6-1 losses, 5-1 losses, and then they also have close games like 1-1, 2-2,
Pretty
4-4.
even across the board. We have 4 wins,
Yeah,
4 ties, and 4 losses. So
yeah, it's it definitely not been the season that I think we would be happy with. Going into the season, I think we definitely expected to be a little bit higher than 5th. But with the way things went, we lost our first round pick. Without our first round pick for the first 4 games of the season. And kind of just the things that happen with attendance issues and stuff. I don't think we can really complain about being 5th and at least making the playoffs. So I think the one thing that will be, and we mentioned it earlier on this episode, it's going to be how quickly can we start, because I think going down against a team that's as defensive as Haya, I think it could be detrimental to the series. If, players come late, people are coming onto the bench 3-4 minutes into the game, and Haya already has a 1-0, 2-0 lead. It will be very, very hard because, just looking at this past game, it took us a whole half to even get adjusted before we could even get a proper shot on goal. So yeah, I think that will be key. Yusuf, what do you think, or what would you like to see from your Rida team, in front of you tomorrow?
I think one of the biggest things, kind of piggybacking off what you said, like getting that quick start, is just taking more shots. I mean, I feel like a lot of our guys, we probably have one of the like lower, like we're on the lower end of shots against, right? And I mean four, but yeah, I think a lot of our guys try to get into too deep and try to get that perfect shot and second guess, that pass or whatever. And so, we missed that opportunity to take either just get like a simple rebound, off of the pads or whatever, and kind of rush the net to get a rebound goal. So I think in the playoffs, anything can happen, any lucky bounces, any weird little, flicks and stuff. So just throw everything on net. And honestly, I think if our team can do that early and just dump everything on net, we'll get a chance to, something will turn our way. So
And it's
quick
not
goal
like you guys don't have the guys to do it. Like, I mean, you guys have Altaf, you have Zahir, you have Bully, you have Abdullah.
Mhm.
Like, it's not like you don't have the guys that can do it. And if his ankle is better, you guys got guys that can shoot. And of course,
Mhm.
with the confidence of having Kapoor and net, don't worry about that. Your back is solidified. But you're absolutely right. Any shot on net is a shot on net, and that's the only way you're going to score.
Exactly.
So, and you guys
Yeah.
got the shooters like Altaf. Use your shot, Bully. Use your shot, Abdullah. Even yourself. Use
Yeah,
your
for
shot.
sure. I think we with Safe, I believe he will be back for tomorrow, inshallah. So it's good to see his ankle recover, and he's back able to to play. So I do think that it will be good to see how we really play moving tomorrow. Abdulaziz, what are kind of the things that Haya should watch out for tomorrow, and what are some things that you guys have been talking about in your team chats, trying to just get some insider information.
Honestly, no, you guys are a very well-rounded team. So we're definitely not taking it lightly. It's not like we have our work cut out for us and we're facing a team that we know we're gonna win. It's like any other game for us. But I think the biggest asset that you guys have that we're gonna need to look forward to and make sure that we contain would be like Bulbulia and Altaf. Their chemistry is undeniable. We've seen it from summer. We've seen it in fall, now in fall, that they can move the ball, they can get the shots on net, and we'll need to just make sure that now that you have Safe Kawaja coming back, we need to ensure that when you guys do press on the offense, we hold you guys and shut it down, or we force a turnover and try to go the other way.
Here we have, we have Yusuf saying that his ankle was a fake injury, and we have Hamza saying that Safe won't get past him. So, it'll be very interesting to see. Habibi, what do you think will, be key for either team in this series, Haya or Rida?
I think you guys touched upon it. I'm just going to tackle on what Ahmed was saying too. I'm a firm believer that the game actually starts in the locker room. It doesn't actually start in the rink. And for that 8 o'clock game, I think it's really key for you guys to actually get that brotherhood inside the locker room and really get that game face, that game, whatever you guys need to get in the locker room. It doesn't mean you come up at 8:05 or 8:10 and you start off kind of like trickling into the bench. I really do think you guys need to show up on time. If you guys need to show up at 7:30, I'll have the rink open for you guys around 7:30. But I think for you guys though, you guys really need to, kind of get that game momentum and get that game thing going at around like 7:30. Like it really should be done like between there. If you guys can do that, and just tackling what Yusuf was saying too, you guys have shooters, man. All you guys got to do is just kind of load up on those shots, and anything can happen. And of course, you said this to Abdullah in terms of like getting that first game. You do not want to go down one game with Haya. So it's very important for you guys to capture that first game.
Yeah, I definitely think it will be an interesting game tomorrow, and either team can win. Really, and moving into the last team now, Ikhlas, the last team to clinch a playoff spot. The young rookie GM duo, who really, despite all the chatter, really had a pretty positive season. Despite some games they had not a lot of people on the bench, and early on in the season, a couple of their guys were injured or sick or on vacation and weren't available. But 4 wins and 2 ties with 6 losses is not a bad record at all for a first-time GM in Yusuf, as well as Hassan, who, all the other GM duos have two players. This one is one goalie and one player. So, there's already kind of some see it as a disadvantage, some see it as an advantage. But I think that Ikhlas will need to play the entire, 30 minutes of the game, or even 60 minutes, because it's 2 games. One thing that I saw last week was, Ikhlas got the lead. They had a lot of confidence. They were shooting, they were hitting the post. And in the second half, we scored, I believe, in the second minute of the second half to tie the game. And I feel like after we scored, it's just like they stopped running as much. They stopped taking as many shots. And, after Bully scored the second goal to take a 2-1 lead, I don't think I think they had maybe a couple of chances, but they weren't as threatening. And, we felt a lot more confident now that we had the lead, kind of after we got that second goal, to really go and push and get that third goal. The third goal was an empty netter. It was I think no one wanted to score it. They were just passing to each other, and eventually Altaf decided to just shoot it. But, I think one thing a class needs to do is, use the veterans on their team. Hassan Zaidi, born leader on the team. He was getting a little riled up and angry this week against us. I think he had a couple of warnings from Tony, but, using that anger and really channeling it towards Ihsan, who you can catch them all on a fast break. You can get rebounds off of Huzaifa Mahida, as long as you crash the net. And, Hassan Mohammed, Yusuf Zaidi, Ridwan Ali, Mikhail Zaidi, as long as all of them show up ready to play, I think Ikhlas does have a chance, at beating Ihsan in a 2-game series. And Habibi, what do you think, the younger team needs to do to really topple, Ihsan?
I think you said it. You could have said it any better. I mean, this team is obviously built on youth. It's built on speed, but it's also got that veteran leadership in the back end in terms of like controlling and harnessing that energy to where it needs to go. I absolutely agree with you. I think they need to play the full 2 games to its fullest. And actually, the only way they can topple down a team like Hassan is just to use their speed. They got the speed. They literally have the speed. They got the young guys that could do it. You got Yusuf Zaidi. Shout out to you in terms of like what you can do. But they got the young dynamo contingent, and if they can just but if they could just go all guns a blazing in terms of like using that speed to their advantage, there is no stopping these guys. And of course, with Yusuf in the back end in terms of like doing what he needs to do in the back end, they literally have to play every single minute of the game, because when you're playing a veteran leadership team like Hassan, the only way to get around them is just to kind of do what you guys were built on, and that's capitalizing on your speed.
For sure. I think this Ikhlas team definitely has more to prove, and I don't think we've seen the end of them. Abdulaziz, what do you think will be key for this team?
Yeah, honestly, I think you guys have said all the points that I was also thinking, but I think it's really going to come down to, can Ikhlas really limit the high opportunity chances given to Ihsan? We know that Ihsan is a very dynamic, offensive heavy team with also experience in chemistry. But what I really want to see from Ikhlas, and I think they'll really bring that tomorrow with Ihsan and their decor, is not giving those high chance shots to the likes of Osman, Dawood, Rizzi, Sani, etc. Right? So if they can shut those down and capitalize with their speed and take advantage of the Dawood and Sani and get past them, then Ikhlas has a really good chance at winning that series. So I think it will really come down to that, and can they limit those chances given to Ihsan and capitalize going the other way?
For sure. I agree, and I think it's been a really exciting preview for the playoffs. Good luck to all 4 teams playing tomorrow, and inshallah, we're treated to honestly in playoff hockey. I'm always a fan of overtimes and shootouts. We've seen really, really, insane, intense overtimes and shootouts in the past, and maybe we'll see some tomorrow. I definitely wouldn't want to be in the game, but maybe if Ihsan and Nikhlas wanna treat us to an all-time series, that would be great. So yeah, Jazakallah guys for for coming out and helping us with your analysis. One thing to note: Winter 2025 season registration is almost full. Please, your payment or your registration is not confirmed until your payment is in. Please send your payment in as soon as possible before all spots fill up. Once all the spots fill up, your only hope is if another player drops out, which didn't happen until the draft this year. So please sign up. We're looking forward to a really fun season. And yeah, Jazakallah guys for for coming out.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank actually being the end of the season, stuff like that. Obviously, there are two teams that have been eliminated. So obviously, congrats over to both teams, Sabr and Team Iman for a wonderful and great season. Obviously, looking at Hamza in terms of what he was saying, that Sabr locker room was amazing. Every single game, it was fun playing with those guys. And I'm sure Iman had the same camaraderie as well, like in terms of like coming out every single Friday. Although it wasn't the results that they wanted, but obviously, the GMs of Sabr and Iman, they had great teams. Obviously, didn't work out for them, but obviously, as you mentioned, Abdullah, I think there's only like 3 or 4 spots left for next summer, or for next season. So obviously, you guys get your, if you guys want in, make sure you sign up as quickly as you can. But big shout out to Sabr and Iman, and obviously, congrats over to the remaining 6 teams. But at the end, there can only be one. And just going back to what you're saying, Abdullah, in terms of like shootouts, we actually saw a championship game won by a shootout as well, and that was exciting to watch too. So playoff penalties are penalty shots are good. Like when it's in playoff, but when it's an actual championship game, that's where it's really at. But it should be a really fun night tomorrow for sure.
For sure. Yeah, Jazakallah guys. And Abdulaziz, I think me and Yusuf are looking forward to playing Haya tomorrow, and inshallah we'll see. So with that, I will conclude the podcast. Jazakallah guys.
Thank you.